welcome Miguel to the studio.
Hey, Mark, thank you. Yeah, pretty pleased to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. You have a very interesting journey, and that a lot of people don't know about you, especially the ones who know you here. So I want to explore that with you today.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's
Uh,
exciting life.
So Miguel, you're you were a professional cyclist, and you've got more first place medals than I could count on a piece of paper. So I was going through your resume. It's very impressive. Actually, it was very impressive with the first, the seconds, the thirds, over 100 races, traveled to over 20 countries, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for sure. It's cycling career that I had a lot of passion for. Give me a lot. It's a very hard sport, but I started when I was 13, 14 years old, and was pretty fortunate to pursue my dreams. And yeah.
How did you? Where were you born?
I was born in Mexico, the state of Jalisco. The city name is Ocotlan.
And over there, is cycling common, or is it like when you? How's it?
For us in the family, cycling became a passion that carried over from generations. My dad, when he was a teenager, I think it was back in the 60s, he had the passion with his brothers. Of course, soccer is the sport that has more, it's more popular and has more people practicing it. Somehow, my dad and his family liked it back those days. So then it kind of died down for a couple of decades. And when my oldest brother was a teenager, my dad kind of got him into it, and that's where everything was rebirthed.
So you saw your brother come into the sport, and then you said, "Oh man, I wonder." And how old were you when you saw your brother doing this?
I think I was about 9 years old. I was a little kid. Yeah.
So you weren't born on a bicycle then?
Not really, but kind of yes.
so 8 years old, you're seeing your brother do this. You feel like, wow, this looks cool, or I just want to play on the bicycle. Like, what's in your mind at that age?
At that time, the cool thing about it is because the races are on the weekends, and it's not like a regular basketball or football game where it's always in the same town.
Yeah,
bicycle races, you go out of town all the time. So I was growing up as a kid watching my brother race, but we'll go to all these different places. So it was kind of the excuse to go out.
And the races your brother was doing, was this races like little schooling events, or is this something more serious, or this was like he was in a league? What was your brother in?
Right. So it's in the cycling, there's an association in every state that has a calendar and has all the teams registered under that association. So all members of the association will know the calendar for the month, for the year, and that's how you kind of train based on the upcoming events and get ready for state championships and stuff like that, where having a calendar, you can plan and program, the next weekend we're going to go to, again, most of the events are always in different cities within the states, and then of course out of states as well. So we were always traveling, and that was pretty cool, pretty exciting.
Did you used to, as a kid, watch this on TV as well? Like as a kid, were you watching this, or you?
I started watching it more. So I was 13 years old when my parents brought me over to California, and I think that's where I kind of start seeing more of like the Tour de France and start like actually getting more into the cycling.
Did you think by watching them say, "Oh man, I can do better than them. Oh, I can ride faster"? Were you thinking that at that moment?
Not like that though, but inspired me a lot to be one of them one day. That definitely was like an inspiration for me to set it up as a dream and say, one day I definitely would like to be one of the best cyclists in the world. Yeah. And I was just in middle school, 14 years old, and I was doing more track and field. I wasn't really riding. And it got to a point, my brother had quit cycling those years, and he kind of like, come on, let's start riding. And so he kind of pushed me to get in there, my oldest brother, yeah.
So like, you're saying you were inspired by them. Like, what was inspiring? Was it just the fact that you see these guys with the colors and the sponsorships? Was it the strength? What was it that was appealing to you about these guys?
I think the races itself.
Okay.
You know, it's like watching Tour de France. I don't know if you ever watched
I've
it,
seen it.
and like the sceneries and the towns and the amount of people, the strategies, the races. Once you start kind of knowing that language of how what happens behind the scenes in cycling, it gets more and more intriguing to where it's like diving in more into the interest of I want to be part of that one day. Hopefully, you know, you can make it. And then I joined a local junior cycling team.
Okay.
Well, a couple of them here before I went into an older categories, and we had kind of the same thing going on at our own little level.
Yeah.
You know, team strategies and races every weekend. And it was fun. It was cool.
So are you, when you're training, like as a kid, like, or a younger man or younger, I know what you're good, younger guy training, are you having the idea that, yeah, I'm going to keep taking this to the next level. I'm going to push myself. I'm going to do 5 miles. How much were you riding as a kid, like, or a younger guy?
So I was coming out of middle school, 2:30, 3 in the afternoon, have some food, and then I would go out and ride for an hour or 2 hours. I grew up in Pomona, here in Southern California, and there's always like training rides. Wednesdays we had a group training ride by the Bonelli Park, San Dimas, where Reggie Waters at, and it was like 50 to 80 riders, all categories, males, females. So and it's got some hills to it. So it's always like you're measuring yourself during the training ride where you're at, and it becomes like a race. And then we had a Tuesday ride in Santa Fe Springs. And then also Tuesdays and Thursdays around the Rose Bowl, there's 200-300 riders will come and do a 1 hour training ride. And it was like a race. So that gives you to feel like every day of the week you got some kind of training going. And then last week I got second place or third place. Now I want to go for the first place. So the training, it's part of understanding where you're at, and then how can you improve. It's the key. What do I do on my own time? So whenever there was not a group ride or I wasn't sprinting too good, then I will go to short little steep climbs and just do sprinting up the hill to increase my power, my strength.
And you're doing this by yourself, right? So now you're just practicing by yourself, or you're...
Yeah, most of the time, yeah.
I mean, when you realize where your weaknesses are, you're just constantly trying to ride up a hill, saying, "Oh, I'm weak here, and I keep doing this."
Yeah. That's kind of how.
When you first began this, were you as good as you thought you were, or do you say, "Man, there's some good guys out here, and I'm trying to compete"?
You know, yeah, I thought I was pretty talented because I was able to podium since the first races, and that gave me a hint that I wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
it was a matter of learning. It's a matter of learning the techniques and tactics and stuff like that. But I think the key for an athlete is to know yourself, know your limits, and how, for instance, there's different type of riders in cycling. Those that can go for a general classification in a stage race, which is like 3 or 4 days, up to the Tour de France, which is 21 days, who will go for the overall win of the entire event. Me, my characteristics, I started learning that I was more of a fast sprinter.
got it.
And there's like the time trialists who can pace a high speed for long periods of times in a rolling terrain. And there's the climbers. I was none of that. I was a sprinter. And then here in Southern California, most of the races are criteriums like local, 1 square, 1 mile loop, really fast. And then at the end, the sprinter has higher chances of winning. And I was podium since I was a little kid. So that's where I started learning that what my characteristics were, but at the same time, how can I improve my sprinting? How can I be able to sustain the 55 minutes of racing, not spending too much energy, and being able to have that super strong energy in the last 5 to win the event.
So you're practicing and you're getting better. You're knowing your strengths and your weaknesses of your personal self. Mm-hmm. And then you're saying, okay, I'm going to push myself more. And at home, are you like, oh, I'm watching what I eat. I only eat this. Because now you're constantly thinking, is it become like so inside you that is it consuming you at home, or it's so easy for me. I can just do this with my eyes closed.
Yeah, no, it was like, early stage on those years, when I was 14 through 17, 18 years old. Yeah, I did watch what I eat, like no burgers, nothing fried. But other than that, everything was fine. You know, I had probably 10, 12% body fat, no problem. Where it starts getting interesting is as I move up and I was able to get hired by an Italian team and made it to the pro ranks. That's when it gets super technical.
So when does somebody spot you? Where's your break where you say, oh man, this is actually really good. Like I can be something. Like what's that lucky break where you say the Italian team right now? Like what looked at you and what saw you and said, there's something here. What was that moment?
So during my junior years, around 16 years old, 17 years old, I was approached by one of the U.S. national track coaches. And he saw me that I had talent.
He saw you riding just on the...
Yeah, during the races and stuff. So he said, Miguel, oh my God, you're so good. You know what? I normally coach people, but I want to help you out. I want to coach you. I won't charge you anything. I live in Redlands. You're just going to have to drive to Redlands, come to my house in the afternoon at 8, 9 p.m., a couple days a week, and we're going to do some specific sprinting for you to improve your RPMs and just in general improve. So that's when I'm like, okay, I'm attracting people to help me, so they see me that, you know, I'm doing the best I can, but at the same time, there's opportunity for me to improve, and that was a game changer because once I started training with him, and I think I did it for 1 year, I was winning pretty much everything here locally, and I.
Did you think, like, with this guy seeing you, did you think it was the real deal? Like, this guy, did you really believe that, man, this guy really knows it? Or did you look into the guy who was looking at you?
No, I believed him. He had a really good reputation. He was, and he was working for the U.S. national team. So the best riders in the U.S. or those that joined the U.S. national team to do Pan American Championships, World Championships, and preparing for Olympics. He was part of that group who was taking care of the national team, the U.S. national team. So
you start training with him, right? So you start training. How does your life change? Like, do you think now, okay, easy road, or does this mean like, turn it up? Let's go harder. Let's go faster. Let's eat healthier. Let's throw Gatorade on my head to be one of the guys.
I think it was at 17 years old then when I started realizing that everything mattered. And he's like, Miguel, you got to stretch before you train. Right after you train, you got to recover your muscle. So I started learning more and more and more. Watch what you eat. Don't go too crazy on it. Make sure you sleep 8 hours and recover every day.
So sleeping was also an important part for you.
Totally. Yeah, an athlete must have 8 to 10 hours.
What time were you going to bed?
I think around 10, 11 at the time. Yeah, and waking up ready for go to school. You know, middle school, high school. I was at high school at the time.
Got it.
And I just continued to try to improve. I know I was not a good climber, but some of the events, you know, upcoming events, which we know the calendar already for the year, like what races they're going to be, and there's some crits that have some climbs. So I'm going to train like 3 or 4 weeks before the race, do some climbing. So I used to go to Mount Baldy, which was nearby my house, by Upland, and I used to train a lot climbing. I lose some speed, but I gain to improve on climbing.
So, like, is your family seeing you doing good in this, and everyone supporting you, and everyone saying, "Oh my gosh, Miguel, you're doing it, Miguel"?
Oh yeah, totally. It was so cool. Those years growing, that relatives, cousins, they will reach out to my parents or my brothers or myself, and hey, where's the race this weekend? Oh, this weekend's in Carson. Where's the race this weekend? Santa Barbara, and they'll show up to the races. Wow. It was fun to watch me race. They just got so excited, and I had so much support, you know, just cheering. And also when I started, when I started reaching out to the national team, they all support me. They'll, okay, we want to help $20, $50, whatever, to make sure Miguel has money for flights and everything for his events. So
you're training with this guy. Now you're doing the races local. Where does the international portion come from? So obviously you start traveling, your resume shows that you've been Cuba, Venezuela, Guatemala, Germany, France. I mean, countries I couldn't even pronounce, but there's stuff on there that I was saying like, whoa, and you were in Mexico a lot. You're racing, there's a gazillion races in Mexico. And this is not third place. Like you have 30, there was like 31st place, and that's like whoa, like you weren't going for a second, third. I mean, there was a lot of first.
Yeah, pretty luckily again being a sprinter, I have had chances of winning and building good teams around me, and a lot of support.
Where does the international thing
So the international thing starts, and this was a key game changer. I was born in Mexico, and when I came to the States, I always had Mexican citizenship.
Yeah.
What was it? 16 years old. One of the U.S. national team coaches on road, not on track, on road, approached me. The guy's from San Diego. He actually had been very successful, having professional teams for more than a decade. And his name's Danny Van Hal. He reached out. He's like, Miguel, you are in all the events that have been qualifying events for the U.S. Junior national team to go to the Pan American Championships in Cuba. You're beating them, and you're there with them. You have their level. And he asked me, if I was U.S. citizen and everything, to give me an opportunity to join the U.S. national team.
And you're believing at this moment, in your mind, you're believing like, man, like, is this really happening? Like, this is exciting.
Right, exactly. It's like, oh my God, yeah. Just by doing what I like, now I'm getting invited to go to Cuba for a Pan American Championships. It's like crazy nice. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. So he's like, he was a person that really kind of started, or with that proposal, he made me look into the international level. And he's like, you know what? Since you have the level of the U.S. national team to be able to go to that event, what I recommend is that you reach out to the Mexican Cycling Federation, let them know that you've been approached by us, and they can set up some kind of events down there that they can see what your level of competitiveness is at, and you can make their national team like no problem.
Wow.
So I did that. I think it was 1993. And they're like, yeah, there's actually some events here in Mexico. Why don't you come take a look, and we'll see how you're doing. So one of them was 4 races, like back to back, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Are you flying your bike over at this moment?
Yeah.
I presume that you like your bike, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I take my bike apart, put it in a bike case, and flying with it. Yeah, as a sport equipment. I think we'll pay like $100 or something at the time. Okay. So yeah. Reach out my oldest brother who raced in Mexico. He was no longer racing then, but he knew people there, and so here we are going to Mexico City to do some events. So
did you think that you would ever go back there to race? Was Mexico ever in your mind to become a racer in Mexico? I mean, now that you've come to America,
kind of yes, but just to go out and do some events, but not necessarily to be full-time cyclist in Mexico. And actually, I never really was a full-time cyclist there. It just happened to be that the opportunity to go for me to go do the Pan American Championship, the Junior Pan American Championships in La Habana, was to join the Mexican national team or have an opportunity to be in the Mexican national team. Yeah. So after that event, out of the 4 days, I won 3, and I got a 3rd place on the 4th one. Wow. So the national team were like, yeah, you're really, really strong. Definitely we're going to take in consideration. So they kept me there. Actually, I came back for a little bit, and then they sent me.
How long were you there for?
I think that one time was a week and a half or so. I think I raced 2 weekends, and did great. So then we flew back home, and then a couple of weeks later, they sent me an official invite to be with the national team at a camp in Mexico City for about a month before the Pan American Championships. Okay. So that's when everything kind of started more into the international level. And that was my very first official event in La Habana, Cuba, for Junior Pan American Championships. Wow. So the Pan American Championships is all countries of the continent that participate on that.
So event. They will go to Cuba and they do that race over there, right?
Right. That was the city and country that hosts that race. It changes countries every year, just like the Olympics or World Championships.
How does the environment? Obviously, you don't know the climate in Cuba, and you're trying to race. How do you compensate for the environment? Because I'm thinking like, oh my God, it's so hot over here, or it's humid, or it's dry. How do you deal
It-
with
it-
that level? Like,
yeah, it was hard to adapt to it, but the good thing is that we were there 2 weeks before the actual event.
oh, okay.
Yeah, they took us down 2 weeks.
It didn't scare you, like saying, "Oh my god, it's so dry." How was it? It was dry, or was it humid?
No, it
What's
was super humid.
it was super humid.
Yeah, it's humid, and it was, I don't know, like 110, 115 degrees every day. It's like really hot. It was in July, I believe, June, July. It was in the middle of summer, like really, really hot and super humid. And we just trained there to acclimate.
And who are you with at this moment when you're there? Is it just you and the team, or you were there because obviously you flew over there, right?
With the national team, yeah.
Okay, so you went there with them.
Yeah.
How many people were in your team?
Ah, shoot, it was somewhere around 15 riders, and then the mechanic, the masseurs, and then the team director for the national team.
And in your team that you went over with, are you one of the pack leaders in this team now? Are you one of the main guys who are
For that,
guiding everybody? Are
for
you?
like the major event, or not the major event, I should say, it's more like there's different categories. So some of the riders were there to do the track racing,
Yeah.
and some of us were there to do the road racing. So the team time trial and the road race. And then there's all these different, like track is the same kind of track and field where they have the 500 meters, the kilometer, so all these different events. To your question, yes, I was one of the strongest ones. And on the road race, which was like the most prestigious event that can give more opportunities for exposure internationally, like the Tour de France and some bigger events. I think I was the strongest. And I was racing with the 17, 18 years old category, and I was 16 still. And I ended up getting 5th place out of, what was it, 160 riders?
Oh, okay.
So it was not bad.
Oh, yeah. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty
Definitely,
good.
I wanted to win, but it's a hard race. Yeah.
When you do get a 5th place in this, do you say to yourself, "Oh my God, I got to work harder now. I got to make sure next time I get that guy. Oh, that guy, yeah, I know him. I'm watching this guy."
Yeah, it's
You're not spiking his drink or something.
yeah. it definitely, I was super happy because I did sacrifice a lot. Being away from family and pursuing those dreams and goals. It's already some that have a big part in an athlete's life. But it's hard because those events, luck is the key. You got to be like, everything has to go in the right direction for you. And then you have to be in your best day. The bicycle needs to be in the best of its performance, and hoping that the strategy, it's all going to work out. And then you're racing with riders that you have never seen in your life.
Yeah.
Because you got riders from all over the continent.
Are they like respectful to each other, or do they respect each other, or do you feel like, oh, this team thinks, screw these guys, and this team says, oh, we're better than you guys? Is there a lot of ego, or everyone's saying, okay, well, this is a great sport, we're going to be very sportsman-like,
Yeah,
we're going to do this together?
It's very sportsman. Yeah, it comes down to performance, totally, 100%. Especially, the race had a few climbs, and it got pretty demanding at a certain point. And it's whoever has best performance, and that's gonna.
With like when you began this, like going back, versus the people who are, let's say, looking at this today, do you feel like society is making people more gamers, like on computers at home, versus wanting to go out there and enjoy the sun, the ride, and the hunger for that? Do you feel like, from what you see as an athlete, I mean, you're a real athlete, do you see that in society today?
Totally, yeah. There's a completely. I mean, just picturing back what I did in those years that I was racing and training. There was no social media. Yeah, it was more of a just watching TV. Yeah, there was video games, of course, but not as it is now, where you're at home and you don't even talk to your kids or families for hours because everybody's on the phone.
Yeah.
At the time, it was like, hey, where should we go this afternoon? Go to the park and do something. So it was more like there was free time then.
Yeah.
Now it's like no free time.
There's no free time. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so that's a big
The
difference.
social media now is you buy a $10,000 bike and you take a picture on the bike and you put it in the garage to get cobwebs on there.
Yeah, just so your buddies on the weekend ride get all jealous and they go buy something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is now. So now, so you're doing this race, you become 5th place. So where's your life going now? Where are things taking you?
So that year, 93, I can't remember my curriculum. So many races in so many
Yeah,
years.
it's a full list. I saw it. I was
Yeah, and that's more like the most outstanding. There was a lot of winnings before
Yeah.
with as a junior. Man, pretty fortunate, pretty lucky, but it's hard to remember. I'm too old for it.
So now you come back. So where does Mexico come in representing Mexico? Where does that come in? Because I've seen the big logo on your shirts and some of the pictures, and we're going to pull some of that stuff up too, so that everyone
cool.
gets to see this.
Yeah.
Where does the representing Mexico? How does that fit into your place? Because that's now representing a country. Like
Right, yeah.
that's
So
something special.
Yeah, I became a member of the national team, and I was a member of the national team for what, 11 years or so.
Yeah.
So that was the first one in Cuba for the Junior Pan American Championships, and then trying to think, I think we did. I think we went and did a tour of Guatemala for juniors the same year. So the reason why I'm bringing that up, it's because after the Pan American Championships, I became more reliable for the national team. I have more and more invites.
Got it. So now the momentum of your exposure and how people are looking at you, all of a sudden now it's picking up where everyone's contacting you, right?
Right. Even the national team, and then even, for instance, I was 16 years old in the Junior Pan American Championships, and Oakley was showing up at the races, here from Southern California, and all of a sudden it's like, Miguel, we want you to wear our product, blah, blah, blah.
So now you had a band of Oakley on here.
Oakley glasses, and then the local team. I was always member of a club or a team. The national team, the Mexico, that's just for official events with the national team. So I was never really wearing the Mexico kit unless it was an official event representing Mexico.
So you're getting all these logos put on you. Because some of your pictures, you got more sponsors. I'm surprised you didn't have tattoos on your arms with logos too, because there's the only space left on your shirt.
Yeah.
So when all these guys are approaching you, how's your ego? Are you saying, man, this is my career, I'm going to do this? This is it.
So a lot of the sponsors, again, being a member of a club or team, the team seeks for sponsors to sustain the team throughout the year and cover our expenses, for instance, entry fees to the races and stuff. That's more of an amateur level.
Yes.
And the national team, you pay your flight to come to the Olympic Committee in Mexico, and then we'll give you everything you need here. We'll pick you up at the airport, and they'll sustain you from there, and then we'll do the official event. So like my first World Championship was in '94. So the Mexican national team again.
And where was this championship? This was in Guatemala. This was
in Quito.
Okay.
Quito, Ecuador, in '94.
Okay, you were in Ecuador. Okay.
Yeah. So now,
so we left Guatemala.
Cuba,
we flew
Guatemala,
over to
the season ended, and then now we start preparing for the World Championships in Quito, Ecuador, and I stayed in Mexico for 2 months before that.
And the climate thing, you're getting there a couple of weeks earlier so that you get familiar with the climate and the roads and the air, right? Because this is also a big part of this, right?
Yeah.
And this is now, you're still in South America, North America. This is kind of where your races currently are.
Yeah, we're the national team, and then definitely the team. I was always a member of a team here in Southern California, so I will do most of my racing here, and then all of a sudden I get the invite from the national team to go to the World Championships now, and it's like, oh, this is so cool. Yeah. But in order to be in the final team that's going to go and represent Mexico, I had to be in Mexico for 2 months.
And that's
during the training camp where there was 15 of us, and they'll just select 6 who are going to go do the actual event. And I didn't make it to go to the Quito, Ecuador, and that was a very hard course, a lot of climbing in high altitude.
So when you say climbing, I mean like you're riding up mountainsides, right? Is that
well,
hillsides?
It was in the city, but it has some like 1.5, 2 mile climbs with like the elevations 50%, 15%.
And how long are these races? Are this 1 mile, 2 miles, 10 miles? What is this?
It's 120K, so about 80 miles.
80 miles? Okay.
I think so. Yeah,
I struggle with 80 miles in a car.
Yeah. So I was training a week. I'll say about 300 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So obviously your body is changing with this, right? Because this is not an easy thing to do. So your body's changing, your legs up, obviously getting ripped because you're riding like crazy.
Yeah.
You're seeing the change, and it's just you're getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
And now you're saying drive, because you're seeing more what's ahead of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what's happening to you?
Yeah, pretty much.
So now you're spending a lot of time in Mexico. And what about the attention? Because obviously Mexico is putting you on TV and stuff because now they're trying to say, hey, this is the champion. This is not the guy got first place, second. They're pulling you around. How does that play with your mind while you're trying to train, while you're trying to go to the next level? Because this is a hard thing to navigate by itself.
Yeah, it's it got pretty exciting. Those are the years where before I actually got hired to go to Europe, I was already living a dream because all of a sudden I get invited to go to the TV shows like the news live first thing in the morning shows kind of thing, and it's like, man, this is really, really nice. And then, you know, the local governments for the state where I was born, they always support me as well. And, you know, I actually got financial support where open up an account down there and they'll deposit, you know, I can't remember the amount, but it wasn't much. It was $100 a month or something kind of thing, but it's more than welcome. You know, I can buy protein with that, or I can buy vitamin C with that. So that's where I started seeing that my career was going in the right path. Challenges, crashes, times where you're sick or just under the weather and you can't perform, or things happen. You know?
And what happens when you're in that position, or like you want to race and you're sick? What happens? Like, how do you react to this? Are you emotionally, oh my God, I just can't do it. I want to, I can't.
Yeah, at an amateur level, you can kind of like, you know, take care of yourself first, skip the event if needed, and recover and make sure you're fit and ready for the next event. Yeah. At a pro level, kind of, it matters as well. Health comes first, but sometimes there's obligations that we have to.
And what about crashes? So I know that, have you had your fair share of crashes and got the scars and the wounds too? With a stick stuck in your arm or something?
Yeah. Not that bad, but yeah, I did had a couple really bad crashes. And unfortunately, those crashes impact my career in a very negative way.
Did it really?
It did.
You mean like, because I see like on TV and stuff where they have a pile up and you see one guy kills it.
I was one of those.
Oh yeah, no.
one of the pile ups. Yeah.
you weren't the cause of the pile up, or you you were the number 1 or 2 in the pile up?
Yeah, I was number 2. Yeah.
So how did that happen? Like, what's going through your mind at that moment? Because obviously there's ups and downs, and this is one of the downs.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Kind of like, just to transition a little bit more smoothly, we talked about this year's with the national team and an amateur level, and then I passed from being a junior into the official name for the category is under 23. Okay. So 18 and junior, and then 19 you become under 23 up to, of course, 22. Yeah. And my first year at 19 years old, I was racing for a local team from Redlands, and still looking to turn pro. Yeah. And I didn't make it to turn pro that year, which was 96. Yeah. 95, I was called by the national team again. I'm going to go back because this is an important event, and I was representing Mexico in the World Championship in San Marino, Italia, in Italy.
So you were in Italy at this point, right?
Not yet.
Okay, so you're about to.
Right, so I did 93 Junior Pan American Championships, 94 World Championships in Quito, 95 World Championships in San Marino, Italy. And for that event, they took us a month before. Yeah. So I did a bunch of races in Italy before the actual World Championship, and I think I did 10. And out of the 10, I won 8. Wow. So I loved it. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to be. One day I want to come and be a full-time pro cyclist in Italy. The culture, little kids, 10 years old, they'll have identical bicycles. They get taken care to an event on the bus. They all have the same tennis shoes, the same outfit, like so professional for little kids. And I was like, oh my God, we don't see that in our countries. Yeah. So I liked it. And that's where it intrigued me for, as soon as I have an opportunity to go to Italy, I want to be a cyclist there. So that was 95. 96, I didn't represent the national team in any event. It was my first year as under 23. Then, no, actually I did. I went to Verona, Italy in 96 for World Championships. And then the following year, there's the Tour of Mexico, which was a 12-day event. And it was sponsored by a local TV in Mexico. Yeah. They put a lot of money into the event to where they brought, at the time, Tour de France riders to do the event from France, from Spain, from Italy. Luckily enough, I'm 19 years old, 12-day event. The first day, I win.
Yeah. Wow.
And I get the leader's jersey of the event. And I'm only 19 years old against the Festina, Banesto, all these big pro teams that do the Tour de France. Yeah. It's in February. So they came and used this event as a training ride for the season, but they already come pretty fit.
Yeah.
So that basically exposed me to the international pro level event teams and events that, oh my God, who is this kid?
Yeah. Okay. So you're really making a name for yourself.
Right. Yeah. Everything. I don't think everything's free. You got to work yourself up to earn and gain that trust. So, yeah, that's really what changed my life. After the 12-day event, I had 2 contract offers from Italian team, both of them. So I didn't even think about it. I just said, where do I sign?
Where do you sign?
Yeah.
Okay.
So right after the event, I signed a 2-year contract with one of the Italian teams, and in Mexico.
How does Mexico react to this? Obviously, because they're saying, "Hey, you should be representing Mexico," and now you're with Italy. Like, how do they? Is there any problem with this?
Not at all. And the reason why it's because you are racing for a club or a team, and when there's official events like World Championships and stuff like that, you are still citizen.
Yeah.
For instance, the Olympics.
Got it.
You know, the basketball team, all these players from Lakers and all these different teams for Olympics, they're all under one nation, right? And they're representing U.S. Yeah. So it's the same thing.
Okay.
So throughout the season, throughout the year, I race for a club or a team. And then when there's the official events, I represent the national team.
And how do people like being for the Italians react to you? Like, is everybody still friendly? Everybody still good with you? Because now you've gone into the European side and you're dealing with obviously Italians and Germans. And how's the culture people treating you now? Because obviously now, is there any ego there, or you find that everyone's still friendly?
Oh, super friendly.
Wow.
Yeah, super friendly. For some reason, I fit it pretty well. I think I'm cool guy, get along well, and then, friendly as well.
And beating them.
Yeah. So
Miguel.
it's kind of cool and it's not, right? Well, at the time, like there was racers from all over the world racing for Italian teams, and we all wanted to turn professional one day. So the Italian calendar was very, very competitive. It was really hard to win. As a matter of fact, after the tour of Mexico and I got the contract, I just called my parents. I'm like, I just signed a contract for 2 years. I'm going to Italy. They're like, well, do you ask for permission? No, I don't need I'm going. So I just came here and stayed with my parents for about a week. And then I flew to Venice, and there was a team already waiting for me there. So it was a lot of uncertainty for me. How is this going to really make my life change as a trampoline for me to become a professional rider, to be able to do the Tour de France. Yeah. But that was.
What about the change of food there? Because now you're going to different foods and stuff like that. Wouldn't that affect you too? Because now you say, okay, where do I get my chicken? Where do I do this? Where do I eat this? Are you still eating the same type of foods, or are you trying to get into society like with these different cultures? Because obviously that can play a part on your body too, right?
Right. You kind of have to adapt, definitely. Okay. They have their culture, they have their food, so you have to eat what they have. And the reality, though, is that Italians for cycling, they're 100 years ahead of us. Wow. So it's a university of cycling just to be a cyclist in Italy. It's crazy how everything's. I was mentioning to you, like little kids, they're so pro already when they're 10, 12 years old. The way they treat it, like their mindset, the culture built in around cycling is huge. So I had no problem. I had all the confidence that I was going to adapt to their system very well and actually learn from them for me to be better and use it as a trampoline again to hopefully one day make it to pro. So, yeah, that year, I didn't win any race until I think I got there in February. And I think I won my first race in June. So it was doubtful. I was placing top tens and stuff, but I wasn't winning, and it was just time for me to understand their system,
Got it.
how they raise, and everything. It's a matter of a lot more pro. Even though we're amateurs, it's like the pro mindset
Yeah, it's like a higher level
of
media,
demand
yes.
and expectation and the sponsorships and everything.
So you're placing in like 10th place then. So you're within the top 10
Yeah.
in these races. So how do you try to improve yourself? So what do you do? Like, is it just focus? At what point do you say, okay, now I'm going to start moving forward again? Where does this happen? And where does climate, again, I'm bringing climate because I'm thinking like you're coming from South America, Guatemala, Ecuador, wherever you're going. And obviously this is very different climate. You've got the humidity. Now you're going to European climates, which is obviously very different than here. And I'm not sure how that would play an advantage or disadvantage for you being over there because everybody else grew up
There, very much, yeah.
So you're competing with that.
Yeah, and you know what? This is more of a human being kind of thing that I experienced, and it was like I still don't believe it. I mean, I do believe it, but it's something that it's kind of unreal. But so all these months I can't win, and I was performing, and I was super fit, and I was doing good, and I was pretty experienced. I had already been in Italy and win races at a lower category. So the magical thing that happened, they let me come home, spend some time with the family for 2 weeks, and fly back and do the second part of the season. My first race, as soon as I got back, I win.
Wow. So unconsciously you're homesick.
That's what I'm saying. It's like magic. And it's not like it came here and trained super hard like I was training over there all the time, because I haven't seen my family for some time. So we're doing barbecues and stuff.
but were you actually, when you were there, were you actually thinking about your family though?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You were, so
Yeah.
just constantly in
Yeah.
your mind?
Yeah, you're always engaged with the family. At the time, unfortunately, again, no social media, no FaceTiming, no nothing.
Yeah.
I'll spend $500 a month in phone calls
Yeah.
because that was the only way to communicate. We have faxes and we have
Yeah.
phones and
Or dial-up internet.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and not everybody had internet at home.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was something,
So
you know, with what you're doing here with your program, knowing the human aspect on the behind the scenes.
Yes.
In this case of an athlete, it's like,
So when you go there to see your family, do you tell them, "Oh my God, I think I suck," or what do you tell them? Like, what do you say? I don't think I'm good enough. Is that your conversation? Because obviously everyone's rooting for you and everyone has faith in you, but now you're losing confidence in yourself. So do they pump you up again? Or like, I know you go back and get first, but when you're there, is that what it was? Is it like you can do this, you can go and own it? Is that what happens?
yeah, they're always cheering, and at times, you know, I open up and vent and tell them what my frustrations were, or, you know, there was a one time where my coach yelled at me in Italy, like right after the finish line, because I crashed, like one lap to go, and I was flying, and I crashed because I went too fast on a turn, and I just slid and hit ended up in the ground. So.
Do you still, like when you're doing this, do you still think about the love that you had when you first saw them on TV when you were younger and you were watching, say, I'm going to be that guy? Are you thinking that you're turning into that guy? Is that in your mind?
I was kind of reflecting, that it was getting closer, and there was an opportunity just by the fact that now I was racing for Italian teams, because it's like every aspect of life, industries, schooling, is you start getting to know people and things become more building networking, and there's people out there, you know, like any other sport here. There's people that for a living they just go to events and look at kids, and so same thing. So I was, but I feel that I had an advantage, an opportunity more than I would have here because I was already there.
Yeah. So you go back to Italy, you win your race. What happens? Is it a cycle of success, or now you've got your mojo back? You know, you're ready to go.
Now after that was like the icebreaker. After that, I won that year a couple more races, and the following year I was like top winner in the Italian calendar, tied up with the European champion who was an Italian guy too, winning 9 races that year. And then the following year was the last year that I did under 23. and all these years at the same time, I'm doing world championships with the national team. So the team in Italy will let me go and represent Mexico to world championships.
And you're still getting onto shows and stuff, and they're still talking.
Yeah,
and you're
the
saying,
supports. Every time I flew back to like Mexico, where the news will come and set up appointments and stuff, and then events and mariachi and yeah, it was. You know, I think the key for success is to stay humble.
Yeah.
Know that what I was doing, it was my passion, and I still remember the day that I got my first paycheck, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting paid to do what I like.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
I've done it for free all these years, and I would love to continue to do it for free. But it's those transitions of
being rewarded.
stages in life. Yeah. So yeah, just continue there. And
so you're Italy, Germany. Now this is obviously where the European track starts, right?
With the European team, with the Italian team, now traveling around the world, mainly in Europe, all these different countries. It's just part of the
what was the
obligation?
What was in being in Europe? What was the hardest place in that European portion that was hardest for you? What was the hardest country to go to, and why the country was hard for you?
I don't think there was in a specific country. That
Germany, they went like the Germans went trying to say we're gonna.
No, actually, they're
friendly.
Yeah,
so the TV is.
I mean, they're kind of on their own, but at the same time, you know, the funny, interesting part. So I after the first 3 years as an amateur in Italy, I turned professional in Italy with an Italian team as well, and now we have riders from France, from Spain, from all over into this team. And at a pro level, now you're talking about Tour de France, Giro d'Italia, Vuelta a España, and all these other events around the world. And basically the professional peloton, I can't say an exact number, but I'll say 1,000, 2,000 riders. We're all the same.
Yeah.
Through, you know, all we do is change events. So we get to see each other in different countries.
Yeah.
The people in every country we go to, a cycling race, it's something that you're on the road doing your thing, and there's always people cheering on the side of the roads. You get to the hotels, everybody's super nice and friendly.
It's interesting that it's more friendly because, like with soccer, you know, the aggression with soccer of one team loses, the other team loses, one team actually starts smashing windows.
Yeah,
like it's a very different environment.
Totally,
Because it's interesting you're saying that, because I thought, okay, different countries, I would see the people saying, hey, go Germany, go Germany, but the fact that it's more of a community thing, right?
Right. Yeah, because the team is represented by, again, riders of all different countries. Right. When I turned pro, I had 2 teammates that were from Japan, 1 teammate that was from Spain, and we were living in the same apartment that was paid for by the team to keep all foreign riders in a place. And we're not that's our home, but we're not there all the time because we're traveling. Like all of a sudden, at the beginning of the year, okay, we're going to do the tour of Qatar. So we flew to Qatar for about a week before the event. The event was about a week long, so we spent 2 weeks away from home, per se, in Italy. Yeah. Because we were doing the tour of Qatar.
You know, I've seen, like, you know, I was watching a video where this guy, like, I think he got a flat tire while he was riding, and he's holding his tire, trying to change it, and something goes wrong. The guy's like crying his eyes out on the video because he's so emotional that he must have tried so hard and no one was helping him. Like, he
gets frustration, yeah, when things go wrong. You probably see guys, if you look at videos of crashes and stuff, smashing the bike against the ground because something happened to it. And you have the team card with spare bikes to give you a spare, but at that time you already lose time in the race because the rest of the peloton took off. Yeah. Now you got to chase, and you are luck most of the time. Yeah.
So were you actually ever in that emotional portion too, where a tire goes flat and you're just throwing your bike over the fence? Like, are you?
I control myself pretty well. Never really went that extreme, but yeah, it happened to me where it's just so frustrating.
That's human nature, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, you're exposed to something that it's like, oh my God, why did it have to happen? Before I turned pro, the last year as an amateur, for instance, we went and did the World Championships for under 23 in San Sebastian, Spain, and those were in September, October, towards the end of September. I can't remember the exact date. Long story short, my teammate won the Giro d'Italia for amateurs, super strong, but he was not a sprinter. He was a good climber, overall rider. And then here we come, World Championships. He's wearing the Italian gear with the Italian national team. I'm wearing the Mexican. And we always talk. We shared events. I support him. He supports me and stuff. But now we're from opposite teams. He's representing Italy. I'm representing Mexico on the World Championships. But the event itself, the altimetry of the event, the course, it was very suited for me. There was one climb that was like about a mile long, kind of hard, that we had to climb 12 times. It was a circuit. And I felt that I had good chances. And then my teammate, he's like, Miguel, you're going to win that World Championships. It's just perfect for you. You're going to kill it. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit on your wheel. I want to get second place because I know if I sit on your wheel, for sure I'll get podium.
Yeah.
He was like so convinced that I was going to win. And here comes the last half kilometer to the finish. And there's a group of us, about 50 riders left in the race. And he's there, I'm there. So I'm getting top 10, about 500 meters to 400 meters. I get off the saddle, so just to speed up a little bit and move forward, because the finish line, I can start seeing it. Yeah. It was like a long straightaway. And by 300 meters to the finish, I get a cramp on my thigh. I couldn't stand on what I was doing off the saddle. Yeah. It forced me to sit down on the saddle and just pedal to get to the finish line.
Oh.
It was so frustrating. Like, that race was 110 miles.
Wow.
On the last 300 meters of the race, I get a cramp.
So, so you just cycled to the
end?
Yeah,
I just got 12th place. Like, whatever.
Oh, is that the reason you...
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was just there fighting to make it to the finish line.
Did everyone say, what happened to you? What went wrong?
And my teammate got third place.
Third place, man.
And he was not a sprinter. So if he got third place, he was certainly behind my wheel. Yeah. He was able to move forward when I got the cramp and got shut down.
Wow.
So how frustrating is that? It's one of those things, you know, not necessarily a crash like we're talking about, how frustrating it gets.
How do you brush that off? That happened to you, you hit 12 when you know that you could have taken first or second for sure. How do you brush that off? Like, what do you do to calm yourself down?
It's hard. It's it's hard because it's such a sour taste in your mouth that stays for a while. It's like, oh my God, when is this opportunity going to rise again? Ever? You know, never know. And it then impacts psychologically to where it's like, you know what, I might quit. I couldn't, kind of thing, you know, but it's a matter of a day or two.
And then it pumps you up for the next one.
And then you just got to get back to your obligations with the clubs, your team, the national team, and all these stuff.
So now do you warm up even more?
Right. And it's the mental strength you have as an athlete, you know, to know your limits, to know, to behave professionally. Things not going to always go the right way. You know, there's going to be things that go in the wrong direction. And the best thing to do in every aspect of life, learn from them. Don't let them happen again. Yeah, just learn from them.
I say normally in a situation like that, you blame it on the bike, but this time you're going to be smacking your own leg.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I had brought it up, because it was super frustrating. But there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So do your kids, like, knowing your past and your history? Because, you know, a lot of kids don't give us as much credit as we deserve. Do your kids do they try to go into this, or do they have interest in the cycling? Especially because you're connected with very high-end bikes right now, because the bikes that you guys deal with is like bikes that I couldn't even, the price of, when I saw the price of them, I was shocked myself, because I got my $150 cheap Walmart bike versus your $8,000 to $10,000 magical bikes.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. The industry has gone so modern and everything's so expensive that, you know, the bikes we deal with are really high end, so some of the best. But to your question in regards to my kids, they like it, they do, but because of who they deal with in their daily life, friends, right? School, they find a lot of attraction both for the boys, for kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. The oldest is a girl, 2 boys in the middle. 16, 17, and the youngest, she's 13. Yeah. And the two boys right now are the ones that are more active, and they're in the football team with school and bodybuilding and all these stuff that engages with what they need. I don't know anything about football. Very little learning, just because I'm willing to support them as long as they stay healthy and they want to do something with their lives. And
I was just wondering if the first place medals bring some coolness, because I'm trying to figure out how to be cool to my kids, and I'm wondering if I have to win a first place medal to do that.
Yeah,
Really
it does.
works.
It does, especially when we go and hang out with my parents and my brothers and stuff. And my brothers are like, "Come on, who's gonna be cyclist? You guys got to do what your dad did. You got to be better than him." And they're like, "Yeah, no, we like something else better."
Did you want them to actually be a part of what you once did?
Uh,
To keep on the family tradition of your father, yourself, your brother?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of, when they were little, of course. And I got into little kids races and stuff when they didn't know what dad was doing to them. But as they grow, they just, again, find their own interest. And I respect that, as long as they stay healthy and whatever they want to do.
Do you see the drive in your kids? Because obviously there's a drive in you. Not many people can just go and win physically, emotionally. There's so much to riding or even any sport that you have to focus. Do you see the drive in your kids of the focus of saying, okay, I can see them really like focusing on the target, because obviously it's your genes, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny. The other day I was taking my son to the gym with his friend, and he's talking all about his football, and then he met the coach and how he's getting noticed. And,
Wow.
and he brought up the fact, he mentioned it. He's like, I think I have it's in my genes.
Oh, there you go.
He was sitting right next to me, and I'm like, okay, I'll just stay quiet, keep listening. Yeah, so it makes me feel proud, it's that they recognize and identify that. Yeah, we got to push. And when I have talks with them, and I talk to my kids, like, what you and I are talking right now. Yeah. It's like fun and laugh, and I just tell them, look, you can do it. I did in my field, in my environment, and you can do it in whatever you want to do in life in general. Just set up your goals and don't give up. Like,
the feeling of being on the podium and holding up your trophy or your medal or being a number one, like, does that make you feel like, with everything that I did from where I was to the race that you say was the most important, which race was the most important to you? Which one was that which really stood out to you? Was there a specific one in your mind?
I think, well, there was a couple, but there was one that I was able to not win the race. I got second place, and I think you have the photo there. Yeah. In you have the best professional cyclists of that time that were winning the races in the Tour de France, and it was not in the Tour de France. It was a different event in the calendar. It was a 5-day race, and I beat this German guy, Eric Sabel, who was, I don't know how many years consecutive, the best sprinter in the Tour de France, and he was one of the best sprinters of the era. And then Mario Cipollini, who's one of the best sprinters of all times in the world. They're there in the picture, and they're there on that event, and I got second place ahead of them. So that was something that I was preparing for the Giro d'Italia that year, and this race was right before, like 2 weeks before the Giro d'Italia, or 3 weeks before the Giro. So I was super pumped up. I was looking forward to do good, and the very last day, I got second place, and I was like, oh my God, things paid off. Yeah. It was crazy. You will not believe it. I will train in the Alps for 8 hours. And then after my training, I'll do like 2 or 3 passes. The passes are 20-kilometer climbs that you go up and then come down and then do another pass, and then you see it on the TV. Well, I was doing it by myself, training. I will meet up with some local riders and do like 2-3 hours with one, and okay, now I'm gonna go to. So I know what route I was gonna do. And the craziest thing, since I was a sprinter, I had to be strong at the end of the race. So I was simulating one of the harder stages in the Giro that I was training for. And I would call my team director, okay, I'm like 15 minutes away from the velodrome after 8 hours on the road. And I will go and do sprinting in the velodrome, which is like the track for bicycle, close by my house. So he'll drive up there with my bike that's specific for track, and I'll do some motor pacing behind a motorcycle, like a 30, 40 miles an hour, and then sprint it out, and then get behind it and sprint. I will kill myself for, train super hard and dedicated to get to these races, super fit with one of the best. And it was all hard work. That's only matter.
So standing on that podium, the feeling of being there, number one, literally all those people around you with thousands of people around you saying, oh my God, we want it to be standing in the 1 to 3, the feeling for you?
It's just unreal. It's like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever, because I'm here achieving what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Win. And all this hard work behind it, the sponsors, there's a lot of pressure also behind the scenes with sponsors and responsibilities, people that trust us to represent their brands good, and the family, the friends, the media. So all of a sudden it's like a snapshot of thank you all.
Yes.
I'm here because of you. Basically, so it's very satisfying.
Would you have done, like, with where your career is now, like, would you have done things a little different? Would you have changed while you were doing stuff? Would you have changed things a little, or done things a little differently?
Could have, yeah. Things here and there, but minimal. I think overall I'm super pleased with my career. A local kid here in Southern California, that cycling here at the time was like not super popular. It was good, but all of a sudden, one of the few made it to the big ranks per se in European cycling. So I'm super proud of my whole career. Yeah.
Miguel, I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your stories with us. And I think it's very inspirational, and I'm very excited. I was very excited to hear this.
Well, thank you. I'm super excited too that you have me here. It's another podium. Being here. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Miguel.
Yeah, same here.
I be killing loopers, even I'm a criminal. Just an ego chip or nothing to subliminal. They can call me cocky, but no, I'm original. If they really wanna get it, they can come and get it. I be serving scoops, on all my loops, If you're watching Swiss beatboxes, hit the replay. I be serving scoops, on all my tunes, If I'm just tripping on this beat, what the fuck about a feed, By the way, I still do this for the show.